Okay. Now, so for what we saw was, so you will have some statements. If you want to run it again and again, you are going to use loop. If you want to decide whether to run or not, then you are going to have condition. That is okay. But there are some scenarios where you want to perform some group of statements again and again. Okay? But the difference between loop and what I am saying is, what will loop do? Loop will be doing the same thing at that line itself, right? So it will be just doing again and again. But as soon as you finish, it will proceed to the next one. But what if I am saying is there is some statements which you want to repeat it again wherever you want. So let's assume you have 100 lines in which the loop is available in the 10th line. So at 50th line, again, if you want to run something, again you will be using some loop. So that is where the requirement sometimes what you will have is you will have a same lines, you want to call it wherever you want. So rather than repeating it again and again, I'm saying you can call it wherever you want and whenever you want. That way, if you want to do that, then we are going to group certain statements and we are going to call it as a function. So typically, function is nothing but a group of statements wherein whenever you call that function, as the name says, whatever the statements is inside it, it is going to execute based on that. Okay? So the major use why you will be going with functions, or sometimes we also call it as subroutines. So we call it as subroutines of functions because what we can do is instead of writing a huge program wherein you are going to have certain lines repeatedly used again and again. So if you have certain things, then instead of writing everything as one complete file, you can break it up into smaller parts, which is what we call it as functions, so that it will be easy for us to read and understand. Okay. And not only that, the other main uses, I can use the same group of lines and I can call wherever I want. Okay. So this is where you just call and it will be picking it up. So in case if there is any duplication of the lines, you don't have to do again and again. Okay. So you just call it. Now, whether you are doing a condition, whether you are doing a loop, whatever it is, now, if I want to repeat it again, what should I do? I should copy the same lines and I should write somewhere again, only then it will execute, right? Whereas instead of that, you can put it as a function and you call the function, and whatever the code or the statement is inside that function, it will get called. So that way, many times, this is what even we do in the actual programming. So whatever common lines or whatever lines that we want to use again and again, then we can typically put it into a function and we are going to call the function again and again. And every time you call the function, whatever the corresponding block or lines of statement it has, it will get executed. Okay, that is what we call it as functions. So function is nothing but grouping certain functionality, and you can reuse it whenever you want within the function. Okay, now how are you going to define a function? So if you're going to define a function, like first before using it for a variable, if I want to use a variable, I will say dollar the name of the variable. But before that, what should I do? I should define it or declare it, right? Same way, if you want to use a function, first there should be a function. And what is the line of code for that function? You should define it. And after that, you're going to call. So if you're going to define a function, then you're going to give function name and you're going to say statement. Okay. And if you want to call this function wherever you want, just tell the function name. Ignore this for some time. You just say function name, whatever you have given, it will exactly call it again. So let me first show you with a simple example. So in this, first, let me write a line. So I'll just say starting the script. Okay, and after that, anything with hash is called as comment, so it will not do anything. But after that, what do you have? I have something called hello followed by parenthesis. So this means that I am defining a function, and any lines that you want, it will be within the flower bracket. Okay, now inside this, I'll just put one line saying echo I am inside the hello function. Okay, and after that, I'm just printing a message called hello world. That's it. And once this is done, is there anything else? No, that's it. So this is where now from here to here it is definition, and wherever you see the word called hello, then what will it do? It will invoke. Now it will replace this line with whatever the contents. So that means it will run these two things here. Okay, so let's try to run this and see. So now if I run, what will first execute? Starting the script. Then defining means just understanding. It will not run it. When will it run? Only when you call it or invoke it. So here after running this, we are calling here. So it will replace this line with whatever is inside it. And once it is done, it will proceed further. Okay. So let's see this. So now you can see it is basically first starting the script, and then when you are calling this function, it is calling these two lines. So it is saying going inside it, and hello world it is printing. Once it is complete, it is coming to the next. Now what will happen if I say once again hello? Here it will again replace with the content whatever you have given inside. So these two will get called again after the echo end of script. Okay, so let's try this also. Okay, now here you can see whenever you call the function, whatever the content of the function is there, at that time it will call it. So that if there is some lines of code you are repeating again and again, better put it as a function and you can call whenever you want. So that way, now it will be easy for you to see and understand what is this function. Okay. So in fact, now if you understand, all the programs whatever that we are using like echo is also a function. Okay, so they have written something in such a way that it is trying to print it on the screen. So that way everything whatever you are using is actually a built-in function. Built-in means it is given by the shell itself. And what is this function now? It is a function which we are defining, wherein I am telling what is the functionality of this hello. Okay, so that way whatever that we are going to create is generally it is called as user defined function, because we are defining what is the functionality that it is going to have. Okay, getting it? Now what is the real use case of this? So let's take one example. Now let's assume I'm going to give you two numbers and I'm going to ask you to check whether it is even or not. Okay. So now generally if you're writing a script, what will you do? So let's take the same script. So you will say A equal to 1. Sorry, let's say if both of them are equal. Suppose if I say B equal to 1, then how will I check this? I have to say if, and then I'll say $A equal to $B, then what will happen? What should I do here? Here I should just print echo number is equal, else number is not equal. Okay, now you are done. Now what if I'll give you another two number? Okay, I will say c equal to 2, d equal to 3. Now I'm going to ask you check for this also. Then what will you do? Once again you will be writing this way, right? Now if you see, these lines of statements are repetitive, right? It's kind of occurring again and again. These are the, what you can do is you can try to create a function wherein that function can run the lines whatever that you are giving. Okay, so this way you can call a function and then it will run whatever it is available. Getting my point? But in this example, let's assume I'm creating a function first. So now what will I do? So I will create a function. The name of the function I'll say is check. Okay, and brackets, and now I will put everything inside. Okay, now this way if I do, see what happens. Okay, so now if I want to first, for example, run this, what should I do? I should just say check. So when I call check, what will happen? It will come inside and it will run. So probably I'll put one more echo statement, going to check. Okay, so that whenever I call this function, it is going to run it, correct? And it will tell me whatever I wanted to. So let's take this. So what is it doing? Starting the script, and definition, it will not run. Whenever you call the function, it is going to call all those things. So that is where it is saying going to check. It is running inside everything. Once it is complete, it is going to come out. Okay. So that way, if there is a lines which you are going to repeatedly use, you can use this. But in my other example, what did I do was, I asked you what if I want to do check for another two number. So this is where now if I again call check, what will it do? It is going to run the same thing, but this time I want to pass a value. So wherein if I'm going to have A and B, I can call this. But what will happen if I say C and D? Now first thing is I need to call. Okay, by saying check, what will it do? It will call this. But as it goes inside, what is it going to take the value? A and B. So what is that I want to pass to this? I want to say for C and D. So this is where there is one more way of calling a function is you are not just going to call the function, but you are going to call the function and pass some values. Accordingly, the shell function should do some activity. This is where now if you want to pass any value to the function, then simply say the function name followed by space separated values. Okay, suppose if I want to pass two values, then I will just say $C, $T. So now if you see whatever values that you are passing, the function will be receiving it. But where will that get stored? So this is where in the functions we have one more called passing parameters. So what is parameters? These are the things that I'm passing. So this way, for some reason, if you want to call again and again, but every time it has to do something different or it has to take different values, then instead of just calling the function, I can call the function and I can pass some parameters like this: the function name, space separated, arguments or parameters. But what will happen is you are passing it. But why am I passing it here? Because this function should receive it. So if the function has to read it, then whatever value that you have passed will be stored into some special variable. Okay, so that way, now whatever the variable we created, what is this? A, B, C, D, all these are scalar variables we created. Same way, whatever the values that you are passing to the function, internally shell script will create a special variable. Okay, that is where now how many values you have passed? 2. So that way, equivalent to each one of them, there will be a special variable which starts with number 1, 3. So that way, if I want to take the first argument passed here, so if I just come here, okay, and if I say $1, what will I get? I will get the value whatever you have passed here. If I want the value of the next one, I should just say $2. Okay, so this way, now let me show you. Going to check $1 and $2. Okay, and then this is what I'm going to give here.
So in the
Okay,
definition,
so this way now.
Hello. So in the definition, no
Yes.
need to specify, right? Parameter.
No, that is on any other programming, because this is a simple lightweight scripting, so it doesn't have any kind of definition. So whatever you pass, it will be stored as the special variable. This way, now if I am going to pass CD, what will it take? It will take these two. But if you look at this, what is that I'm doing? I'm not passing anything. So if I don't pass anything, then it is going to be empty. That is where now if I want to call, how will I call the first one? I want to call the first one with A and B, right? So here I should say check $A, $B. So that means now first I am calling this function by passing these two values. Then I am calling this function with these two values. So this way, when you are passing this, it will check these and it will match. The same way, if you are passing these two, it will replace this. Okay. So now let's see the same. Okay. So you can see it is starting the script here, then definition. So first time when you are calling check, so what is it doing? It is going to check 1 and 1. That is what you have passed. After that, it is comparing. Is it equal? Yes. Then it is printing number is equal. It completed. Then it is coming with these two values. Here we are doing a check again. And in the check, again I'm passing two different values. So which is what it is taking. So now it is going to clearly say check 1, B. Okay, then it is going to run that. This is how, when you're calling a function, you can also pass parameters. So it typically depends on it. If you know that the function doesn't need any parameters, then you're not going to use $1 or $2. Only when you know that you're going to pass something, then that accordingly you have to take it using $1 and $2. So remember, this $1 and $2 will be available only within this function, not outside it. Okay, because you are passing some value and you are trying to read it internally using it. Okay, that's the difference. Got it? What do you mean by passing and getting it up? Okay, clear? Functions and calling a function, and passing a arguments. And how do you read it? So remember, it starts with $1 and $2, and it is available only within the function, not outside the function. So I can call this function as many times as I want. Okay.
Python also we are doing the same way.
Yes, everything is the same, no matter where you go, but the syntax will be different. So if you take Python, we don't use this. Python, there is something called as sys.arg. Okay, so that is where the functionality of how to use it will be changing. In shell
Okay.
script, any arguments you are passing to a function, you are going to use it using $1 and $2. So depending on programming, it will be changing. But in shell script, you are going to use $1 and $2. Got it? Okay. So now you can see here, what did I do now this time? I passed the function empty, right? So I didn't call. So because of that, what happened here? See this? Checking, what is this? Both are empty. So that is where, since both are empty and both are equal, it is saying that it is equal. Okay. But if I was doing something else, let's say that I'm doing some arithmetic operation, then what will happen? It will try to read it. There is no such value. It is null. Then I cannot add a number with the null value, which will give me an error. Okay. That way, pass the argument, it will be reading the $1, $2 accordingly. If you want to read and you are not passing, then what will happen? It will be taking it as empty. Okay. That's where you need to decide. First of all, does it require a parameter? And if it requires, you are going to use $1 and $2 accordingly. Okay. Got it? Now, in the function, there is only one last thing which we need to know is returning values. Okay. So what do you mean by returning values? So by default, what is happening here is any function that you run. Okay. So suppose if you call here, what is happening? It is going inside this line. It will execute everything. As soon as it completes here, it is returning back to the same line so that it is proceeding further, right? So if you say check here, it will go to this function and it will run all these lines. And when it is complete, it is coming back to the same line and then proceeding with the next line. So that way, anytime you call a function, the function will always return to the same line from where you invoked. Okay. So that means when you are completing the execution of the function, it is actually returning. Returning where? Returning to the same place where you have invoked it. But when it is returning exactly after completing everything. Okay. But for certain reasons, if I don't want to continue some lines and just directly want to return, like how you had continue. See, continue means what? It didn't go further to the next, sorry, like break. If you say break, what did it do? It just break there, it come to the last or the next line of execution, right? The same way, for some reason you are running it, you don't want the function to continue further, but just to return directly. Then you are going to use a keyword called return. Okay. So if you say return, wherever you say return, at that line itself, it will return to the actual call where you are doing the function invocation. Okay. Getting it? So if you don't tell, by default, function will run everything and at the last line, it will return. If not, if you explicitly tell, then wherever you are saying return, at that line, it will return back to the original invocation. Okay. Now, let's take this example. Okay, right, let me change it. Okay, let me change this first. Or let's take this function. It's not good there. Okay, so now what I want to do is, for example, here, if I just type echo completed check $1 and $. Okay, so this is default. So if I run this, so what is it doing? It is calling it, it is going inside, and it will check the condition. Once it is done, it is going to run the completed, right? So now, what I'm going to do here is, instead of doing this, as soon as the echo is there, I will say return. So if I say return, what will happen? As soon as it completes, it will come back to the position. So that way, it will never execute the else, or it will never come to the echo part. Okay, so it will directly come to the next line and it will start. So let's see this. You can see it is not running this, or it is not coming to this, because this time condition failed. So that's the reason it went inside. Getting it? First time when it came, I returned back. So it never executed this line. But the next time when I came, condition is not true. So that's the reason I'm not even going here. So it is not doing any return. So it will complete, it will come here, then it will do the default return from the end of the line. Seeing the difference here? It's not calling this for the first time because it is returning. So if you say return explicitly, it will return back to the invocation. If you do not say anything, then it will execute everything, and at the last line, it will return. Got it? Getting it? Getting the
What do you mean
difference?
by return? What do you mean by return 10? When we say specify the number, right?
Wait, I'll come to.
Okay.
Getting this? So far, what do you mean by return? Return means at that line, it will go back to the invocation of your function and it will return to the function. If you do not give anything, it will always come to the last line and it will return back to the invocation of the function. Clear with that? So function by default returns. But what we need to know is, when a function is returning by default, whether you are using return or not, it doesn't matter. But when it is returning, it is not just going to return, but there will be some value that it will be returning. Okay, so that way, now if I am going to say this function is returning, that means if I call this, it is going to return back to the shell script at that line with some value. So now if I have a value, then I should store it. So how can I store it? How can I store?
Variable equal to function.
But if I say variable, so let's try this. For example, I'm saying variable equal to check. Then what will happen? Here, dollar. Yes, when I did a mistake. Okay, guess what we did? Yeah, this is taking it as not a function. It is just taking it as a string. Okay. Now this is where what we will do is, whenever you run some command, you are going to get the exit status. So this way, when this function completes, it is going to return the exit status of the last command that it is running. So that way, in the shell in the beginning, I told you, how will you take the return status of the last command? By saying dollar question mark, correct? So now see here in this, if I say echo dollar question mark, or let's do one thing. Now I will say variable equal to what? Dollar question mark. And then let's run this. So what is happening now? It is returning 0 because the function executed this command, which is the last one, and it is returning the exit status. So that means whenever a function completes, it is going to return the exit status of the last command what you are running. So that way, if it is success, it is always okay. So that means when a return is happening, it is returning some value, which is the exit status of the last command. Now this is where, for certain reason, if you want to return some other value, then explicitly when you are saying return, along with the return, you are going to say some value. Okay, this is where if I say something like this, then see the difference. So let's do both. Let me copy this and paste here. So I'll just say first time, second time. Okay. So now what will happen when I'm calling for the first time? The values that I'm going to pass is what? Nothing. So it is going to be equal. So because of that, it is going to return. But when it is returning, it is going to return 2. So that is what you are going to get here. Okay. Whereas the same thing, if I run this, these are not equal. So it is not going to do anything. So it will come here and default, it is going to return what? The default status, which is 0. Okay. So let's see this difference. Getting it? First time it is returning 2 because what happened? Here I am explicitly returning 2. Whereas here, when it comes to the next one, I am not going through this. So it is going to the default return, which returns the status of the last command successful, which is 0. That is where here you can see first time it is returning 2, the next time returning 0. This way, when you have a function, you can explicitly return, because that is where you're not just going to use return whenever you want. There will be a scenario where you want to return at some particular line, and at the same time if you want to return some value along with it, then you are going to use the return accordingly. Okay, got it? Clear? Now how about write a script? Okay, now this is where I can say I will give you two arrays, okay, and try to find out the average. And now when you do the average, I want you to just minimize the number of lines as much as possible and just return the value. This way, inside the function itself, I can write the average, and instead of getting it, I can return the average. That I can take it from my parent or the first script or the main script, which will read it and it is going to execute. Okay, try writing it. Just write a program wherein it should take one array or two array, whatever it is. Now that it should take an average. For doing the average, what it is going to do, it is going to call a function. But now function, after doing the average, it should return the average value where you are calling. That way it can. Try writing it. Done? Anyone? Anyone?
Adam,
Yes. Yeah, anyone?
did you ask anything, Adam?
Sorry?
Have you asked anything? Anything means
I didn't get, what is it?
have you asked any question? I didn't get you. Sorry.
I'm just asking, did anyone complete the script?
Your voice is breaking. Sorry. Hello.
I just asked, did anyone complete the script?
Not yet.
I'm asking, did anyone complete? So I'm just asking, can you guys try writing? So cannot do it directly, but what is that expectation I was saying is, if I pass any variable with some values, it should be averaging it. But now, if I have to pass some value, so this is where first you need to know, I have to go through the for loop. So this is where now there are two things you can do. First, I need to have all the values that I needed. Okay, there are two ways you can do. The first thing is I am passing a value. So this is where yesterday, if you remember, in the index, if I say star, it will pass everything together. The same way, okay, now the problem here is if I want to take one by one, then I will say $1, $2. But now I don't know how many values I'm going to pass here. So then how will you say $1, $2? This is where now the beginning there was something called a special variable that I told you I will tell later. This is where some of the special variables that we used were dollar question mark means exit status, dollar means the process ID. So that way, if you remember, we also used dollar star. So dollar star means the total values that you have passed, and if you say dollar hash, then it will give you what, the total number of the value or the arguments you have passed. Okay, this way if I say dollar star, what will happen, it will take all the values, then I can simply put it into for loop and it will be giving me the values. Okay, so this is where I can call this way, or if I want to call, I can change this and I can call whatever, so it will be accordingly taking everything. Okay, so just try to see this in the check. Okay, now, okay, I'm just going to remove all the others. Not to, okay, so now I'm passing some values, and let's see. So I'll say echo values passed equal to dollar star, and I'll say echo total number of values equal to dollar hash. Okay, now here I don't want to do any conditions and all. Just let's keep it very simple. Okay, so here if I say check, okay, so I'm going to say 1, and then if I say check, okay, so fine. So I'm just calling it, I'm not doing anything, so that this will just give me what arguments I have passed, and it is going to tell me total values and what I have passed. Okay, so you can see, so for the first time you are called, the values that you have passed is totally only 1. So total value is 1. For the next time, the total values that you have passed is 2, and those are 1 and 2. The next time you are passing 3, so it's clearly going to say 3, and accordingly it is going to do this. Okay, getting it? Getting the difference? So now remember, each values that you're going to pass as an argument will be taken as $1, $2. But if you want everything together, just say dollar star. But if you want the total number of the count, then I will say dollar hash. Okay. Now let's assume if I want to take an array, sorry, if I want to take an average, for average, how many values I need? Minimum of 2 values I need. If anything which is less than that, then I should not work. So here in this, for example, if I just pass this much, what will it do? It will still run, right? This is where, how can I give a condition? So simply if I now give a condition like this, for example, if I say, if what? dollar hash if it is less than or equal to 1, sorry, yeah, less than or equal to 1, then what should I do? Now tell me, what should I do? If it is less than or equal to 1, then
Break.
I should not do anything. Why do you break here? Break is for, that is for loop. There is no loop here. So what is that I want? I should just go back to the function invocation. So that is where simply I will say return. Okay. This way what will it do? It will just return to the call. So it will not even proceed further. See, remember, break you are going to use only when you are inside a loop. There is no loop here. This is the function. This is where if I say return, it will just return. Probably you have to give some message saying something like need at least 2 values. Okay, so that when you run, it's going to print it accordingly. Got it? Getting it? Return in arguments for the function. Any questions? What? That way I don't want to directly take. If I want to change anything internally, I'll talk about it tomorrow. Scope of the variables. Okay. So, but for now, clear? Whatever you're passing as an argument, it will be stored in $1, $2, $3, $4 like that. But in that, $hash will give you the total number and $star will give you the all the values together. Those are the special variables that will be. Okay. Any questions so far?
Hello. Hello.